Hey everyone, David Powers here talking about treating agoraphobia. Now, a lot of people get affected by agoraphobia each year. In particular, people coming off meds like benzodiazepine who take a chemically speaking, take a huge hit and they get very depressed. They usually crawl into bed, isolate themselves, their symptoms get worse, their anxiety goes up through the roof, and then they find themselves in this sort of sinking situation where suddenly they can no longer drive their car. They can no longer be social in the way they once were. Going out to eat or having a drink or even getting groceries, clothes shopping. Daily basic stuff, going to church. All these things get stripped from them, and then it reinforces this isolating behavior, this isolating depression, if you will. And it's terrible. It's very hard to treat. It's very hard to get these people to therapy because they don't want to leave their house, because the second they stand up and even begin to put on their shoes to walk out the front door, they're pretty much panic prone. So what do you do with these people? If you find yourself in a situation, if you're going through agoraphobia, if you're someone that's been in benzo withdrawal now and has found yourself being very agoraphobic, what do you do? Well, the first thing that I try to have people do when I'm working with them in a coaching session, or what I've shared in my own book, The Power's Manual, Guide to Benzo Recovery, is getting out of the house every day. Systematic exposure therapy, essentially, is what we're talking about here. So you get up and you say, today I'm going to walk to the mailbox 3 times. Now, to anyone listening to this that doesn't have agoraphobia or anything like that, that may sound just so trivial, so silly. I mean, you might be thinking, walk to the mailbox, that's not very far. That's, what is that, 50 yards? How can that possibly be therapeutic to anyone? But here's what's happening. As we isolate, as we stay inside, we're not getting enough sunlight, we're not getting enough nutrients, we're not getting the interpersonal interactions that we innately desire and need to be healthy. We're not getting the exercise, and we're not exposing ourselves to any kind of stimulus that are traumatic whatsoever. And let's back that up. Not stimulus that's traumatic per se, because it's all perspective. And so when I say traumatic, I'm saying the person that walks out the door and sees a car whiz by the front of their house, that's a stimulus. That's a trigger for people that are agoraphobic. That right there could be enough to frighten them. Certainly, it is an environmental stimulus that we have to be aware of, and that could cause us harm if you were to just walk out into the street. So there are this stimulus around us constantly, and what we do is we isolate ourselves from them. So, which is why these things become more of a threat to us. They are perceived as more of a threat. Going to the store to get groceries, going to church, even anything where suddenly I'm in a vehicle, I have to be interactive in this society, and cars are coming my way, and all these stimulus around me. I got to go interact with people, and then comes the fear of, what if I just black out in front of these people? How will I look? It's a whole mess, to put it simply. But it begins with getting out of your house, right? Because you isolate and things get worse, and you understand the fears. But it begins with getting out of your house. So every day, say for the first couple weeks, a month, I'm going to walk to my mailbox 3 times a day. I'm just going to walk in a mailbox and I'm going to walk back. Now that in itself is enough. If you do that, at first you may have a panic attack. You may have a panic attack all 3 times that you walk out there. But what will eventually happen over the days that you do this, and it is a brutal exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is brutal by nature, but it's so effective. What eventually happens is your brain stops throwing up these fight or flight responses. So now you may have 2 panic attacks. Maybe now after a few days, you don't have any panic attacks walking to the mailbox, but you're close. And then before you know it, what happens is you're walking to the mailbox and you're pretty much fine. Your mailbox now has become an extension of your safety zone that your house is. Now the mailbox, okay, now I'm fine all the way up to the curb. And then we push that a little further. We say, let's walk up a few more houses now for the next couple weeks, or let's walk up to the stop sign if it's not too far. So we do that for a few weeks. Same process. At first, you panic. You're feeling dizzy. Your heart rate's going up. All your somatic issues are arising. Your hypochondriasis is through the roof. Oh my God, my heart's is it beating too fast? Is it a heart problem? I'm feeling dizzy. Is this a brain tumor? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. But as you do it again, you push your boundaries, and then now you went from your house being your safe zone to your mailbox being your safe zone to the stop sign being part, of the extension of your safe zone. And then we start pushing it, and that's how we fight back against the anxiety that is agoraphobia, the anxiety that consumes us like a darkness that just sort of shrinks our world down to we're just a house or a bedroom floating in space. Now we have to fight back against that and push that space because it's an illusion. Of course it's an illusion. You're holding your shopping cart, you're pushing your way through the grocery store, and you're ready to black out and panic, and you have no idea why you're feeling this way, but you do. And it's sort of trying to run you out, right? It's trying to run you back to your home. Just stay home, order your groceries, don't leave, isolate yourself. Your home is safety. It's an illusion, though. And there's a perceptual issue, a perceptual disturbance that has taken place that we have to readjust. But it begins with behavior changes. And we could talk all day till we're blue in the face about the reasons of anxiety, the fears associated, the illusionary design of the fears, if you will. But it all comes down to behavior first. Behavior will change your thoughts. We don't need to start with the thoughts necessarily. Let's just start with the behaviors. But perception is key in this, right? Now, when you walk, and this is really important to follow this. When you walk to the mailbox, say you're using this exercise, the important thing to remember is you're in control. It's like a mantra in your mind. You're saying, I'm choosing to walk to this mailbox. I'm in control. And if this panic arises and it wants to run me back in the house, I'll stop for a second. I'll collect my breath. I'll reframe my perception to see that, hey, I'm not going to black out. I'm not going to die. I'm not in danger. And I'm choosing. Now, here's where people go wrong. I'm choosing to stop for a second. Say I'm walking to the mailbox. I'm choosing to take a break, have a deep breath, collect myself, and then I choose to walk forward. That's fine. That is a very different phenomenon than the panic hits and you turn and you just hightail it back to the house. Or you're driving and oh God, I'm starting to feel panicky, and you get off the road and you stop driving and you sort of succumb to the panic. The difference seems small, but it's profound in your brain. You're choosing to pull over if you're feeling anxiety. It's okay. I'm just choosing this. But here's the difference. I'm not being ran off the road by my anxiety. And if I'm walking out to the mailbox and I need to stop and collect myself, I'm choosing to do that rather than just panically reacting. That's what I'm getting at. You can't react out of panic. You have to be in control. Even if you choose to go, you know what? I've started to walk in the mailbox. It's too much for me. I'm going to stop right here, collect myself, take a deep breath, and then I'm going to choose to walk back in. But you hold yourself. You're in control, and you walk back into the house, and you're not being ran back into the house. See, it's that response, that quick reaction to the fear that's sort of like we allow it to just break down our front door and stormtroop our home. And what I'm saying is you have to stop that by sheer will and perception to say, I'm in control here. That's not going to stop the panic attack. I'm not saying that's necessarily, it can, many times, most of the times, it will actually stop the panic attack. But the idea is psychologically, you're in control. If I'm walking to the mailbox and it gets too much, I stop. I'm choosing to stop. If I'm driving my car and I'm starting to panic and I feel like I'm in danger on the road, let me pull over for a second, collect my breath. It'd be no different than if you had diabetes and you felt your blood sugar shifting and you're driving and you say, ooh, I feel a little woozy. Let me pull over for a second because, I just want to be safe here. You're choosing to do that. It's not a reaction to fear. And that is key. And that's what is missing when I hear some of these people on YouTube and different outlets talking about exposure therapy, and they're trying to relay how to do exposure therapy and these things. And they're not a clinical psychologist. They don't have clinical psychology background and training and understanding. And the difference is profound, because if you try to just expose, well, look, it will work. If you throw yourself in the fire long enough in enough repetition, your body adapts. That's the miraculous thing about us, is we are so adaptable for survival reasons, obviously. So anyway, that's a little bit of info on agoraphobia and how you can treat it. And that's how I treated it. I was experiencing agoraphobia at one point when I was coming off benzodiazepine some years back, and it got really bad, and I couldn't drive my car, and I came at that time to understand the mechanism, combined with my clinical psychology training and understanding of psychology and behavior. I was able to fight back against it and completely annihilate it. And it's a very treatable thing, but it's so hard because the exposure is scary and it hurts, and it's uncomfortable. I mean, on the base level, it's uncomfortable. At the worst, it's terrifying. But unfortunately, as is the case in certain things in life, there's just no really easier way around it. We have to expose ourselves and stay diligent, and we can beat it.